Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Know to Grow, a light to heavy duty podcast. I'm Chandler Kahn with Focus Investment Banking. And today I have on Bill Kerry with Kerry Brothers Truck Repair. Welcome, Bill. Thanks for joining the show. Super excited to have you on. Tell us a little bit about your company and what you do and kind of how you're playing in the industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's been great to get to know you and love what you're doing for the space. And, the more information we can get out there to people that, they're not alone as repair facility owners, and it's there's a lot that goes into it. So, we started as a family 1985. My dad and my uncle rented a horse and buggy garage in this building that was built in 1905. And they started them and, three brothers really in a garage fixing trucks. And they had a really, really solid reputation. They had some pretty loyal customers that we still have today, 41 years later. And, they were able to grow with those customers. And I came back into the business in 2014. Actually, after working for one of their biggest customers, got a pretty world-class education in business and management and, seeing the world of what was out there and how things worked. And I came back in and I was employee number 6, learned to be a master level technician and bought my dad out in 2015. And, we slowly started to scale. And what we found is we couldn't handle all of the work that was, pouring in the door. I was saying no, on a weekly basis to great customers just because we didn't have the capacity.
Yeah.
And, started getting the idea of if we build it, they will come, right? So we started knocking walls down and, grew into 80,000 square foot facility right here in downtown Detroit. And we kept everybody's numbers and said, hey, listen, I'll call you when, we've got plans. We're knocking this wall down. We got to raise that ceiling, right? And, we saved numbers. We started calling people back. And, even now we still are getting new customers on a, weekly to monthly basis as referrals from other customers. So it's been a really great opportunity to kind of expand our services and really find a way to be, one throat to choke for our customers. So in 23, my partner retired and we closed the year with 20 employees and 1 location. And, as of April 1st of this year, we've got 5 locations and 100 employees. And we've got a new location that we're greenhousing, 20,000 square foot facility in the next couple weeks, and looking to add 2 more facilities in Michigan by the end of the year. So
that's fantastic, man. 5x in employees in 3 years is really great. Let's hop into some of this origin story here. Going back, I think you were in commodity sales when you kind of younger in your career when your dad still owned the company. Is that right? What made you jump to a family business and trying to grow that?
So yeah, commodity sales is a riot, right? I was trading fresh meat, across the country, globe, and it was a ton of fun, but I was a really bad employee, right? I was a bull in a china shop. I don't take no for an answer. I don't play well with others. So, I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and try, running my own business. So I was looking at a couple of different business avenues to go in and had a conversation with my cousin, who was my best friend, who had just bought his father out of the truck repair and said, hey, man, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? He's like, come work with me. What are you talking about? This is crazy. Why would you go do anything else? Like, your dad's getting ready to retire. Just buy him out and we'll do this together. And it was fantastic, right? It was a real eye opener, man. I hadn't worked on trucks since I was a kid. My dad fired me when I had graduated high school, worked here for the summer, was going to night school at Wayne State. And, he came in one day and he's like, hey, get your shit, you're fired. I'm like, what do you mean, Dad? And he's like, this place will always be here, man. You got to go try something else and see if, there's something else out there for you. And I can appreciate that, right? It gave me a real opportunity to learn a lot of real life skills and business skills that I don't think I would have had the same opportunity staying in the family business then.
That's fantastic, man. It's a good takeover story, and I'm sure your dad is super proud of you. Obviously taking over a business can be daunting. You have to, pay back your investment, then you have to grow it so you can, kind of control your own destiny. What were some of the operational and financial challenges in the early years, 2015-ish?
I mean, everything, right? You're making a monthly payment. Unfortunately, my dad financed me, but wasn't anything more favorable than I would have got from a bank, right? So, you got a payment. It was due everything, early mornings and late nights, right? I mean, when I came in, they were still green paper ledgers for accounting and handwritten invoices, right? So implemented QuickBooks and brought in Mitchell as a software. And, we didn't have any tracking for inventory. And it was it was really a lot of hard work, right? He was older and his brother were older, so they weren't willing to put the 80-hour weeks in anymore. And we were able to make money just, as a lead tech in your own shop with a couple of helpers, you can get a lot of shit done, right? So it was off to the races, and we knew we couldn't fail. And thank God my wife is as patient as she is. I had 3 little kids at home, and I'm getting here at 4 o'clock every morning and getting home by 9 o'clock at night, right? Lost a lot of weight and got in really good shape, but it's a struggle, man. I think every business owner has probably got, the same story of just grinding, and you can't take no for an answer.
Did you ever grow too fast starting out?
Starting out, no. Starting out, it was very, very slow growth, very meticulous. We wanted to really control the quality of service and the product. And, we were taking one guy here or there, right? I mean, we grew from 6 to 20 from 2015 to 2023, right? So it was, and all those people are still with us. So really the key to our growth after that was, hey, we found the right people to train to do the right job. And now if I was able to train 4 of those people, every one of those people can train 4 more, right? And it really was hard. It was hard to adjust when we took the best technicians and turned them into trainers, right? And it was a J curve, 100% J curve, right? To go from 20 to 40 people in, probably 90 days, right? I was hiring anybody with a pulse. Like, you showed up for the interview, you showed up on time, you want to start? Do you want to start today? You're in, man. And we found people that we were really just searching for cultural fit. So it was just being honest with people, from the interview level, and we still are. Hey, this isn't for everybody, man. This is hard. We have high expectations. It's long hours. It's tough. It's dirty. It's cold. It's hot. But we're gonna have fun while we do it, and hopefully we can all make some good money together.
When you were transitioning the business to kind of an updated business model where it's not as paper based, or you're using like an updated shop management software, you're placing parts orders over the computer versus by phone, like what were some of the challenges to get the business from kind of point A to point B? I know these cycles can take some time, right? What did that look like for you?
I mean, I think in any system you implement, whether it be a new phone system, right, it is a struggle. And if people have been doing the same thing for a long time, it is even harder to get them to adjust. I think the easiest part of growth in regards to systems is you bring somebody new in and then that's all they know. So you're like, hey, this is how you do it. This is what you do. And then that person becomes the trainer to the older people on some of what those systems are, right? So I think there's a lot of value in coming up with that right kind of onboarding for people to really help everybody else learn what it is that you're trying to get pushed through the entire organization.
That's a really good point, because the way I see it, this change management piece from the M&A side, is that there's a lot of buyers out there that they almost require shops to already be doing some of these low hanging fruit things, right? Like, they have a shop management software. They're not taking invoices on paper, that type of thing, but they essentially don't want to assist with the transition piece and getting the business up to speed, even though it's low hanging fruit. But it's a really great point to make a hire, bring that person in, modernize the business, and kind of disseminate the new operating model throughout the organization. So good piece there. I want to talk about the way the business is structured, kind of the growth engine, the acquisitions piece. You run, I believe, an entrepreneurial operating system. That's kind of vague. It seems like everybody does that, right? But I know this term was coined by a guy named Gino Wickman, and it's a set of practical tools and concepts to help your leadership of small to mid-sized businesses gain traction, achieve their business. There's a framework to vision, people, data, issues that arise in the organization, processes, and traction. What is the single best thing you changed in the business when kind of following this more professionalized framework, if you will?
Yeah. So EOS, if anybody who's listening isn't familiar, and you're an entrepreneur, I bought 100 copies of Traction, right? I read it and my mind was just blown. I was on vacation with my family, and it was right after I had bought my partner's shares out, and I'm reading this thing, and like my wife and kids are like, "Can you put the book down?" I'm like, "No, I can't. This is talking to me, right?" Like it was mind blowing, and I didn't have a formal collegiate business education, right? I went to school for supply chain management, so it wasn't really a lot of those same classes in business management and things like that. So it really opened my eyes to like how accountability works, right? And what accountability is. And then the tools are just so basic. Gino kind of stole all these different tools and insights from all these other authors that wrote all these business books, and he just put it in something that was, easy to understand and easy to follow. And, it was all just based around accountability. And, if people don't know what their expectations are, then it's really hard to hold them accountable to what it is they're supposed to be doing. And, there's some great tools. We're not live and die EOS people. We're just, hey, let's use it as an outline. Let's use some of these tools. The idea of we need an organizational chart was like, how many people can sit in the same seat or in different seats, right? You start looking at that point, I was still in probably 20 seats, right? Accounting, IT, HR, service advisor, lead technician, sales, right? So it's like purchasing, you're like, man, I got to replace myself. So for me, it was like we had to grow in order to finance all of the people that I realized I needed to put into key positions.
Yeah. And this is theoretically pretty simple concepts. I mean, stuff that you learn in kind of like a 102, 103 business course. But, I think the key for you and for anybody listening to this is, do you have it on a whiteboard, or are you looking at these concepts every day and sticking to kind of the process or plan? So, thanks for sharing, a little bit about the EOS. I know you've had a fractional CFO at some point. I'm not sure if you have one now. The fractional CFO, I believe, came out of the EOS. You had an entrepreneurial operating meeting at some point in your past. We like the fractional CFO model. We recommend it to folks. Once they hit a certain point in business, having a good fractional CFO could be a key thing for a business. Tell me a little bit about the role of the fractional CFO in terms of your growth.
Yeah. So actually, I became a member of EO, which is Entrepreneurs Organization. So it's a global organization for entrepreneurs, and it's blue collar to startups to anything else. So, really finding a peer group of other business owners to be able to ask a lot of questions to that I really didn't have access to, right? I was in my own world, right? I came to work every day. I worked hard. I had some friends that might've been customers, but, I never really had somebody to like really talk to about some of the higher level business stuff. And, somebody recommended a fractional CFO. I'm like, dude, that sounds expensive, right? And it is expensive, but the bringing somebody in, and she was a veteran in business and ran some really, really successful companies, and thought she was going to retire, and said, maybe I'll try this out. And we met, and she's like, yes. And she came in with a whole world of experience, a lifetime of experience and other businesses, struggles, operations, right? Not even just on the finance side, right? The majority of the value she brought was she wasn't afraid to tell me no, right? And she was like, no, that's a terrible idea, right? We're not doing that, right? Hey, you're growing too fast. You're not going to be able to afford this. You're going to have to make some cuts, right? And it was an eye opener to what the capabilities of somebody in that role could bring to a business. Because, coming from being a technician in a small business, and I've got money in the bank account, and what are my payables? What are my receivables? I'm okay, right? That's all I got to know. And for somebody to come in and be like, hey, we should build a budget. We should build an outline. Let's see what this looks like. And, really bringing some high level guidance to everything from benefits and things you don't look at, right? And things you don't understand. And it was a massive, massive learning experience for me. And since then we have hired a full-time CFO who, is leveled up our business in a big way. Right. So
yeah. And there's a reason why larger organizations have a CEO focused on product or service strategy, and the CFO focused on the financial aspect of the business. And both of those subjects need to talk to each other, right? And if I had to guess in the heavy duty space, when you would need one would be maybe when you're at 6 to 7 million in revenue, or 2 to 3 locations, whichever one of those comes first. What would you recommend to somebody that's growing, that may be considering hiring a fractional CFO? Like what size do you really need to be at?
I mean, I'd say anything over $3 million, right? You can have somebody come in for 4 hours a week and teach you basic bookkeeping that is beyond what you're normally doing, right? Even just from the ramifications of inventory and cash and turnover, and learning things like DSO and DPO, and why are you doing this? It's just, I think it's an immediate payback on anybody coming in and being able to really consult your bookkeeper or controller or whatever it is that you have, especially if if you're a small $2-3 million, $4 million business, your wife is your bookkeeper, or your, in my case, it was my aunt, right? And we only know what we've been doing, and to have somebody come in who's a professional in this, it's the same way if you would look at your truck repair, right? If you've never rebuilt a transmission before, you're not going to just take the damn thing apart and start doing it. If you had access to somebody who's rebuilt a million transmissions, you're going to have them come look over your shoulder and say, hey, do this, do this, do this. And now you know what you're doing, right? So huge impact.
Awesome. Let's jump into the business model a little bit. I look at the logo on your screen right now. It says Kerry Brothers Truck Repair, complete fleet maintenance, right? But you're doing some other stuff. You expanded into this like used truck dealership offering. Most repair shops don't do that. I know a couple that do it. What was the case for becoming a dealer?
Really, it was my customers would call me and be like, hey, what do you think of this unit? Can you go inspect it? Yeah. I'm like, you don't want this, right? You're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. And it would happen over and over again, and be like, man, listen, how about I just go find you a truck, right? Like, I know what you need. Tell me more about what your routes are. What are you going to use this for? What's the life expectancy of this asset? What driver are you going to put in this truck, right? If I'm intimate in the fleet, I know what they need better than they do, right? So we started just kind of like brokering trucks for people, and realized that, like, hey, I got to get a dealer's license in order to do this. And I'd say last year we probably bought and sold 60 trucks and trailers, and we're able to really dial it in. And then if I have a customer who has a little bit of a higher OpEx CapEx budget, I can find them some really nice used equipment, and then their stuff still got a few years life left on it. Maybe I've got a customer that's a startup, and I can move the truck from this guy into that customer, and it's a win-win for everybody, right? And I don't need to get rich on it. It's we want to make a few $100 on a transaction to be able to keep the guy happy, right?
Yeah. How many full-time employees do you have on that business?
Just me, one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it. You also have a parts division. So I think you run Michigan Bus Parts. You run an entity called Fleet Trust Parts that I believe you sell to parts to other independents. Tell the listeners about these businesses and why they're part of Kerry Brothers.
So Michigan Bus Parts was in an acquisition. We purchased Downriver Bus and Truck in October of last year. And at one point, he had 3 full-time people in his parts department, and he specialized in school buses. So all things school bus. So tons and tons of inventory, had the Michigan Bus Parts. And, we continued to kind of get that back off the ground and really focus on some of the things he had direct access to, and even the specialty of knowing what the parts are to be able to service school buses. And Fleet Trust Parts came about in really sitting back and looking and saying, man, like, hey, we're going to have all of these locations, right? And for us, the biggest thing is like, okay, let's imagine we have 10 locations. That's 10, businesses to have payable statements to 100 different vendors, right? So how the hell are we going to do all that? We need to at least have one vendor source for all of our locations and really clean up the back office accounting and transactional purpose of that. And then with that, we can consolidate our buying power and, leverage very specific inventories to distribute back to each of our branches so that we don't have stale inventory in every branch. And, we can really have one distribution house and run steady shuttles. And then, through the time, we've made some really good relationships with some guys that are very, very strong in turbochargers and turbo and fuel. So we've picked up some pretty cool equipment to make and remanufacture turbochargers, and then do some customization of turbochargers that we ship all across the country.
That's cool, man. And then, I know there's, a good amount of folks in the industry that just go directly to the manufacturer and, either they're close by or they just get, do drop shipping from the manufacturer and kind of eliminate the distribution middleman. Where is the industry in terms of kind of distribution in the space? I don't know if you have an opinion on that, if you've seen things change, but just would love to understand that.
Possession's 9/10 of the law, right? So most people don't want to wait a day, 2 days to order something to get it. They want their truck back on the road. And in our space, service in the parts side it's not a thing, right? In the automotive space, I can go online and I can order from any of 6 different vendors in the area and get a delivery within a couple hours. And it's easy to look up parts based on a VIN of an automotive vehicle. But in the heavy duty space, the cataloging is, I don't think, really ever going to be up to where they are in the automotive space, just because there's so many upfits and bodies, and you can pull a slack adjuster off what the OEM put on and put anything on that fits, right? So it's and then you go to take that off and then they send you one from the OEM and you're looking at the sample and you're looking at this, you're like, these aren't the same, right? So
yeah,
it's a different movie, and we just really wanted to focus on what is it we needed and what have we wanted from heavy duty parts vendor is service, right? It's not all about price. It's just, I need somebody to come in and stock my shelves, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want somebody to come in and say, well, why are you buying all of these from these 5 other people? Let me go to work on getting you the price you need to just buy everything from me. And really that's where, the parts side of our business is starting to go to.
That's awesome. Appreciate the overview there. Let's hop into kind of telematics and dashboards, right? Most independents, resell other folks' telematics offerings. You built your own customer dashboard. Why did you do that? Why was there an investment made here? Really curious about this.
So we looked at it from the perspective of, that one throat to choke, right? And if, anybody's ever tried to get a hold of these telematics companies because they have an issue with a camera or a cord or a connection, it's like you're offshore to somebody that doesn't understand what you're doing. You can't get service. You can't get any customer service whatsoever. And then from a fleet manager standpoint, I'm sitting in their shoes and I'm like, okay, I have my telematics dashboard, and then I have a dashboard for this and my routing system, and I have a dashboard to look at the assets and the health of those. And, we just said, hey man, we got to be able to put all this stuff into one place. And how can a fleet manager go to one spot, look at all of their fuel, drivers, incidents, health reports, truck repair history? We wanted to give them something that they could go to one single spot, and then we could provide the service to help them, right? So we brought some developers in and, built out some pretty cool stuff that, we're allowed to, that we supply to customers.
So are these just fleets based in Detroit that only do business with you?
Yeah. So we were expanding the model. But really right now we're just only focused on the people that are our everyday customers that we do, everything for. Even guys that have, units stationed in Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Grand Rapids, Flint, we have all of that stuff in one. And then, aside from something simple breakdown, they still shuttle it back to us to fix it.
Are there any other regional players or national players in the space that are kind of doing this, kind of competing with you in terms of an offering?
The only ones that I'd even be I'd be on my radar would be like somebody like an Enterprise who comes in, or Element. They're going to come in and they take kind of the role of the fleet admin. And I think they do just a massive disservice. Holman, right? Auto Integrate, right? I just think they do a massive disservice to their customers. And I understand it's a need, right? It's absolutely. If I'm a national fleet of Brinks armored trucks, let's say, right? I have to have something that I can look at all of my units across the country and have one point of contact that can all run. Of course, I get that, but
yeah,
the same time you're being charged for a per unit or a per revenue or however it works on the back end to the customer, and then the independent shops have to pay to get their invoices submitted, and it just slows the entire process down, right? Because you're not dealing with the actual fleet admin who's like, man, I need my truck on the road tomorrow. I'm like, oh, sorry, I submitted the estimate to Element, and they've got to call your boss, and then 3 days later I get an okay when I could have had the truck fixed and back to you, right? Yeah. So we just tried to bring all that into, a very vertically integrated platform.
That's great, man. That's really cool. Workforce and industry outlook. I have some questions here that I want to cover. I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but you've grown from 20 or 30 employees to over 100. What's working in recruiting and retention? What's not?
So dollars don't work for recruiting, right? You have to be competitive to where somebody left for them to come to you. But really for us, it's been all about the culture, right? We just do fun shit all the time, right? Like today we had a giant barbecue out in the street, invited the fire departments and police departments and all the people in the neighborhood to come get some free burgers and ice cream. And send shit out to all the branches, and we do games, and we do this year's Christmas party. We rented out this big giant venue and invited everybody's families. So it's bring your wives and kids. We had a Santa, a face painter. We gave away, everybody who came left with a pretty sweet gift. We gave away a car. We gave away 75-inch TVs, electric scooters, vacations. In the summer, the entire company comes to my house in my backyard for, team building for about an hour. And then, I'm kicking people out at 4 o'clock in the morning. Everybody gets an Uber gift card, so nobody's driving. Golf outings, and it's just we keep it fun, right? We do games in the shops every week.
That's awesome. So I asked you that because Full Bay's report said that the number one driver of technician satisfaction is culture at 49%, and pay is at kind of 36%. Is it because the technician looks at this as a lifestyle rather a job where they're trying to generate income? I mean, why is that culture so important? I'm surprised it beats pay, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I really always make the military analogy. I'm not saying anything of what we do is even close to the men and women that put their lives at risk. But these guys are in the trenches next to each other all day, right?
Yeah,
they are dirty and sweaty and freezing, and they get to celebrate the wins, and they get to work with each other to try and diagnose a problem, right? So it really builds that camaraderie amongst the individuals, where these guys are hanging out on the weekends together, right? Like every one of our shops, these guys are that when they go out with their buddies, or they go out to get a beer, or they're going to a game or something, they're going together with other employees. So it's really about just like families are our number one core value, right? Like we always say we want to build a place your mother would want to work. And in our case, like we have a ton of people who have brought family members into the organization, right? So, it's really just about, we have to bleed together, and we have to listen. If one of us makes a mistake and blows a $50,000 engine, we're all paying for it, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's got to be that level of accountability to each other. And then these guys care, right? Like they just, hey, you need help? Do you not know what you're doing? Hey, let me help you, right? Like, so we really had to build that culture into our business.
Interesting. So talking about training and upskilling in the context of the explosion of diagnostic complexity, what are you doing there to make sure your techs are ready to go with some of these, newer trucks with complex diagnostics?
I mean, lots, right? I mean, not even from the technician standpoint, the whole organization, right? We do, we were doing it weekly. We kind of moved it to monthly, and we do a weekly or monthly leadership training, right? So 6:30 in the morning, There's a different volunteer to do a leadership training, and we do paid training time off, right? So everybody gets 40 hours of paid training time. So we utilize a lot of the resources that are out there, HDA, Cummins, other things that these guys get paid to go do certifications. And then we built out a pretty extensive technician training ladder, right? So we have 6 tiers of technicians. You can start at $18 an hour and not know which end of a screwdriver to hold, and get to $45 an hour if you put the work in, right? So we've really invested heavily in getting these guys the tools to be able to train.
Awesome. Mobile. I'm hearing this so much, particularly from, all the folks that are looking to make acquisitions, those that are looking to, invest in a platform or getting to the industry from a kind of a buyout or M&A standpoint. What do you think about mobile? Is the industry overcorrecting on mobile a little bit? I want to know the truth.
Yeah, we don't do mobile. So
there's a reason for that, right?
Yes. I don't think I could have the quality. I don't think I could have the technician accountability. I can't even imagine a guy doing an oil change in a parking lot. Like, to me, it's like, that doesn't even make sense. Dirt and rain and snow and the technician be miserable. For us, I'd rather go pick it up and deliver it for free, right? If you're really that short on time, we have a fleet of loaner vehicles that we give people to drive back. Like, I get emergency, right? We do a lot of emergency for our customers. They get a blown airbag, blow tire, whatever. Lift gate doesn't work. We'll go out and service those guys to get them through their route. But like mobile, going to your yard and doing work in your yard, we don't do it. I couldn't imagine. And God bless the guys that do, right? I hear it's a good business to do if you get the right technician and everything else. I think we would lose a lot of our culture, right? And it's all about safety for us and making sure these guys go home with all their limbs. So we don't let anybody work in the shop by themselves. I couldn't have that on my conscience of a guy dropping something, or he's in the middle of a job and he smashes his finger, and then my customer's got his truck sitting on a jack stand. I got to send somebody else out there. It's just not something that we are interested in at all.
Yeah, and I've heard some numbers thrown around where a truck can bring in $400,000 or $500,000 a year in revenue, and EBITDA is 20 to 30%, which is $100,000, basically free cash flow. I mean, it seems like a good model. Or your customers not really demanding mobile so much because of your offering to go and essentially get the truck, bring it in the shop, fix it. Probably some of this has to do with your geography within Detroit and the area, maybe the way I don't know, just different fleets are structured, but want to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, our customers don't have and people have asked, right? Hey, can you come do this in the yard? Like, no, but we'll just come pick it up, right? Like, it's no problem, right? Like, we have a 5 guys with CDL licenses that all they do are shuttle vehicles around the city. And my answer is always, listen, if I send a guy out there, there's one guy on this job, right? And I'm limited to his abilities. So if it comes in my shop, I have 8 people touching that truck, right?
Yeah.
So I know that my quality's done right. I know that guy, every single nut and bolt that he touched has been double checked. Every single aspect is looked over, because I'm not going to put my name on something that I have a guy out there that might be having a bad day and forgets to do something, and God forbid a set of wheels fall off.
It's good point there. Let's talk about your fleet service agreements. I think you're kind of no walk-ins for Kerry Brothers, mostly fleets only, predictable monthly pricing. Seems like there's kind of this subscription model. Is that what you're doing at Kerry Bros across the board?
No, not across the board. We've really been honing that ability. And, there's a lot of pros and cons to it. And, we're essentially selling an insurance package, right? That streamlines it. So there's some different offerings, but for us, it's really just like I tell every customer, man, if you're going to go somewhere else, don't call me. Like, like our ability for road service and jump starts and going out and getting your guy, like our tow truck driver will go hook up to a produce truck that might have broke down, and he'll tow him to 15 stops and unload the whole damn load with the guy, right? Like, so you will not get any of our other services if you go anywhere else, period.
Yeah.
So, those are the demands we make. And, and those are and if you're one of the guys that just want to send us certain things that, you want us to do, okay, you're going to pay more, and it's not coming in today, right? Like you're not getting the drive up service. You're not getting all the added benefits of what we do.
Cool. Last question here on the industry. If you're looking out, 8 to 10 years from now, Kerry Bros in the Detroit region, where do you need to be in the future to continue to be relevant and continue to grow?
Amazing question. That is the biggest reason that I saw that we had to expand rapidly. And the window that I saw maybe 2 years ago or a year ago was, okay, we have 5 to 10 years to really gather market share and geography, because the Penske's and the Riders and the leasing companies of the world are a no-brainer for most people. Right. If I'm an average fleet and they don't have somebody like us, it's, I've got a suspension guy, an engine guy, I got to take it to the dealer, I got a body guy, I got a tire guy, I got a road service guy, I got a towing guy, right? It's impossible to manage on a small fleet. It makes it's a complete no-brainer for them to go to a leasing company. And once they're there, they're never going to come back out. Right. So for me, it was like, I'm battling that. And now with the private equity, interest in our space, it's like, shit, okay, that window just shrunk in a big way. So, we're just trying to really hone our processes so that we can continue to, onboard new locations as fast as we can.
Yeah. And for anybody that's listening that doesn't understand the private equity approach, it's, folks with money that are trying to piece, specialists with tire, with electronics, independents together and make them one solid platform. That's what you've already done at Kerry Bros, organically, right? Versus inorganically, which is really the private equity approach. Diesel Connect in Phoenix, May 19th through the 21st. I'm super excited about going. Tons of folks speaking with in terms of M&A, which is quite fun for me, and this is what I do. But I also go to learn. Right. And you're presenting at Diesel Connect on shop reporting. So what's the story behind the reason you're doing this? And let's jump into this concept a little bit about shop reporting.
So I'm really excited for that. Right. Like we found that, Full Bay was an amazing tool at, running the shop management workflow, but it was a struggle to really pull a lot of reports and then get a clear picture of a dashboard. So I had a developer on staff that was working on some stuff in Power BI, and then I'm like, man, AI is the way of the future. So we brought in a couple of independent consultants, one of them being a sophomore in college who was my kid's swim coach, and said, and he's like, man, I want to handle this project, right? And I'm not going to charge you for it, because if you have these issues, I think other people will too. And if you're okay with me building this for, the rest of the industry, then, you guys can have this for free. Like, hell yeah, man, go to work. So he came up with this Truck Genius platform that, he's getting some real traction on, and he's built an amazing tool that, as an owner, I live in this thing, and it's all I need to look at to know what's happening in my business. And we make a ton and tons of decisions on the data that's in those dashboards to run our company, right? Not only with some of the, auto invoicing through Holman that saved a ton of time here, really having a way to focus on what the individual KPIs are and then assigning them in accountability, right? EOS, really using the scorecard to be able to hold people accountable. And the results have been astonishing. Like there's aha moments every time we start looking into this, like, oh shit, now we can focus on this and we can give, this utilization KPI is the only thing we're going to focus on for the next 90 days. And all of a sudden you just see it go higher and higher and higher. And those missed revenue numbers go lower and lower and lower. Right. So it's been a crazy ride for us. And it's been, how do we know when we can onboard a new location, or how is it performing? What practices do we have at this location that are doing better than this one? And then it highlights them so we can cross train.
That's interesting. And I've had Fabian Bongine on here with Foothills Group in Canada, and he started ShopView. How does that solution compare to ShopView? They're basically both trying to simplify kind of full base complexity, if you will.
So ShopView is a competitor of FullBay, right? So it's a different complete shop management software. Truck Genius is a plugin to FullBay. So there's something that directly pulls your information out of FullBay and gives you complete visibility over any minute detail that you want to dive down, right? And a very easy ability to spot trends and patterns and then work through them.
And then during your talk, right, at Diesel Connect, obviously you're going to talk about, reports and what owners should be looking at. What are kind of the two major KPIs or the one or two reports that every shop owner should be looking at, daily or weekly?
As long as it doesn't turn off all the people that are going to come to the presentation. But really, the biggest one for us was like gross profit per hour, right? It was, how do we find out what jobs are the most profitable for us? Which customers are the hardest ones to make money on, right? And down to what vehicle, right? Like if I want to dive in and comb through the data, I can look and find out, hey, we're good at this vehicle, we're not great at that. We're good at this service, we're not great at this service. And, asking the questions of, is it a people problem? Is it a training problem? Is it, come to find out, oh man, we just really don't have the, OEM software for Volvo. Well then guys, get Tech Tool. Like, what are we doing? Like, what I mean?
Yeah.
You're able to make, better decisions as a business to justify it. Or you say, shit, we don't work on that many Volvos. Why am I going to pay all this money to go get Tech Tool? Just stop working on Volvos, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't do it.
Awesome. And then let's wrap it up today. We're 53 minutes into it. For anybody that's listening to this podcast, always try to have kind of one piece of wisdom at the end. What is the key piece of advice that you would give to any owner looking to professionalize and grow their business and take it to the next level?
Man, service is everything, right? It is the way that you can increase margin. It's the way that you're going to get sticky revenue of people depending on you. It is just doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And saying that you don't know the answer, but you'll get back to them is totally acceptable, right? It is really just, don't nickel and dime people and, put your cost all up front. Like, we don't do mileage charges and all the other shit. It's just, dude, this is what we charge hourly, right? It's right out in front of them.
Fantastic. It was great having you on, Bill. Really enjoyed it. Love what Kerry Brothers is doing in the truck repair business and now dealership and, parts and everything else that you're working on. So thank you again for joining. And I look forward to connecting with you at Diesel Connect here in a few weeks.
Can't wait to see you, man.